Welcome to About Town, a program today starting in Weston, and perhaps we'll go past the 169 towns in Connecticut and talk about some other things with my favorite guest, Allen Swerdlowe, FAIA, fellow, yes, architect, and head of our building committee, and someone I always enjoy talking with. Allen, so tell me, what's up?
What's up in Weston?
Well, we can start there.
I think what's happening in Weston now is really interesting in that we're doing it. The Planning and Zoning Committee is doing a 10-year plan, and incorporated in that plan is a downtown town plan, which embraces the municipal areas, the shopping areas, and some of the playing areas. And for the first time since I've lived here it's about 25 years. There seems to be a real movement to create a difference in Weston.
Okay. Perhaps the only one that was similar might have been when Mrs. Robinson and her family put the shovel in the ground before there was zoning and started the center. But in any event...
What year was that, actually?
That was shortly before the 1950.
Well, I came about shortly before the 1950.
Yes. Yeah.
So about the same time.
No. Yes, born.
Yes. Right. Well, every project that comes to a consultant is a new one and a new challenge. I've met with the consultants privately, and I think they're taking the challenge well. This is a really interesting problem in Weston, and more of a project than a problem, in that there are certain key features in town that, if they change or are reimagined, can really provide for the community a lot of value. And when I say a lot of value, a lot of towns in Connecticut, of all places, are struggling. One of the reasons they're struggling is a change in how younger people view their living habits. They're not buying as many cars, they're not having as many kids, and foremost, they want to live in urban areas that have stuff. And I mean, we have the Lunchbox, we have Peter's Market, they're both great, but it's not a lot of stuff, you know. And the closest town is Westport, and if they move out to this area, why not move to a place closer to where things are happening, where there are bars, restaurants, theaters, and whatever. We don't have that right now. So I think the question that's posed to the consultants is, how can we get a little more of that? How can Weston attract younger people to its town, which we absolutely need? And how can the town then become more resourceful for them? And as I've said for many years, how can it become a place to drive to rather than to drive through?
Well, actually, I don't think people truly drive through Weston. I mean, the traffic really isn't that bad. The worst traffic is when people are driving their kids to school. I mean, nobody knows that there is Weston. I mean, north of Westport, east of Wilton, but it's Weston is a secret. And whilst nothing is a secret anymore, of course, thanks to the internet, that very specialness that we've worked so hard to protect in Weston by not having sewers and not giving into various and sundry improvements, I think we're now at the point where we're ready to then take another look at things now.
Yeah.
We haven't spoiled things yet. So we can fine-tune it.
Well, I think that's the right term, because every change has consequences. Some of the consequences are not foreseen, either for the better or for the worse. And I think that the consultants are grappling with that right now. As you know, Margaret, my favorite discussion point when it comes to Weston Town is the bus garage. So the bus garage was built in 1947 for 5 buses, and it's now grown to 30 to 50 vehicles, depending on how you count. It attracts a lot of traffic to it, and a knot of of traffic problems during the morning and the afternoon. But more importantly, it prevents, it's a stake in the heart of the middle of town. It prevents any logical growth if it stays. Mm-hmm. So I think to their credit, the consultants are looking at the bus garage site as the most important site to rethink in terms of the overall strategy here.
Well, one of the things that I'm slightly disappointed with is, although they're using the same definition of downtown as they did 10 years ago, not necessarily that was the greatest decision, whatever was made 10 years ago, there are a number of, like, you've recognized that the bus garage is, perhaps the most right in the middle of what they're talking about. And other people might be confused that maybe they think the shopping center is. And then what about the school campus, which is for the most part not within their definition? But then I say, well, what about over the next 10 years, something is going to happen at Bisegli, perhaps. It's an opportunity area. As we said in Pratt planning, we refer to these problem areas as opportunity areas. There's that. And then there's the potential for Cobb's Mill Inn, which is very real. Not to become what it used to be, but at least to be reinvigorated in the sense of its historic values and bringing people to Weston to see Weston, to have whatever event they're going to have. Mm. And including, in this case, this time they're including one church but not the other in downtown. And there's a number of things, and perhaps if we ever do get these walk paths, that will tie it all together. But I think there's still more to understand about what is the center of Weston.
Oh, absolutely. And now you talk about walks. A streetscape plan, which will be part of a master plan, embraces all of those things, including wayfinding. Mm-hmm. So, as you mentioned, there are a lot of interesting outlying opportunities mm-hmm. in town. You didn't mention the Historical Society mm-hmm. or the farm. Mm-hmm. The farm is 40 acres, mm-hmm. and it's now become a cultural venue. So has the Historical Society. And mm-hmm. in any small town, it's really important to understand its relationship to all of those outlying opportunities. And in wayfinding, that it makes it easier for both the townspeople and for visitors to see that. Actually,
I think that there's never been any problem at all about the Historical Society in that respect. As you're driving up the hill and your ears are popping, going up the hill, bing, there's the Historical Society, and it says, welcome to Weston. To me, it's always said, welcome to Weston.
No, it is. It's very welcoming, but in the first number of years I lived here, there was really very little going on there.
Oh, that's certainly.
And that's changed. There are great events happening there all the time. Music events, cultural events, historical shows. Last year they had a magnificent show on World War II.
Yes. Was it World War I?
World War II.
Okay, the World War I was before. I actually did a
presentation during that on a film that I made about World War II. Mm-hmm. For a little town like this, 10,000 people, 3,000 plus houses, to do the quality of that exhibition, along with the 1960s mm-hmm. exhibition they recently did, and their cultural musical events on Woodstock, they call Weston Stock. Mm-hmm. It's actually quite good. So all of these outlying opportunities are really part of the town. Mm-hmm. But they have to be expressed in a way that makes it clear they're part of the town. Mm-hmm. In addition to the part of the town the consultants are working on. And one of the things I'd like to say is that I never thought in my lifetime, having moved here, when keep Weston rural was the mantra of many people who lived here, mm-hmm. Probably about half the population, that we start to talk about creating more density when it came to commercial activity. And the consultants have shown that as an opportunity, starting at the four corners of of the approach to Weston, and all the way down to School Road. There are tremendous amounts of commercial opportunities to expand upon, in addition to the town center. One of their recommendations is even to demolish the town center and replace it with something more New England-like. Now, I'm not sure that's all good or it's all bad, but just to have that breadth of conversation is interesting.
Yes, well, the people who go to the Weston Center, many of them are from Wilton, because they can't get across Route 7 to get to their own center, or it's different. They sort of like this, thing. So it's a regional picture, basically, I think we're getting into, which brings me to the issue of the bus garage. The bus garage symbolizes the Weston is for school children, blah, blah, blah. Within the next 10 years, we may not have a local Board of Education. It may be regionalized. Who knows? So your point is very well taken about,
Right.
looking past what's today.
Yeah. I doubt whether that's going to happen in the next 10 years. And the town is talking about moving from the 4 schools we have now to 3 schools. And there are several strategies on how to do that.
Oh, I want to hear about this, Alan. Okay, tell me about this.
Well, I know something about it. I'm not so sure I'm up to date on everything about it. I know the building committee will play a role at some point.
I hope so.
The plan that to me seems most viable, but then again, with limited information, most viable, is to remove all school activities, direct activities, from the middle school. And the middle school is the most difficult of the 3 schools we have. It's had the fewest improvements over the years. And we require something like $35 million to bring it up to standards. And nobody wants to spend $35 million on that. So the discussion is to add some space to Hurlbut and possibly the 2 other schools, so we can combine our schools back to 3 schools. Now, I think in the 1930s or 20s, Hurlbut was the only school in town, correct?
Correct.
And there was a project done here in the early 2000s, or the early, was it 2000s or 1990s? Maybe it was more like the late 1990s, where a connector was built between the 3 different components of Hurlbut.
I can tell you about that.
Okay.
Okay.
Just let me finish my thought here.
Sure.
That project wasn't fully realized. So there are opportunities to build more classrooms there that were originally planned in the original project. Go ahead.
Okay. Where I fit into this is I don't think I was on the Planning and Zoning Commission anymore, but would you please join us in this committee? I said, we have to, it was just before, it was like 1995, and there was one part of town, including the editor-publisher of the then newspaper, who said there are no more children. Because she looked at the federal statistics, and I said, see, population's dropping, they're not having children. Of course, what happened then was I said, wait a minute, you sit around the lunchbox and you see all these pregnant people wandering around. I don't know about this. So I did a census. I got the town to pay for it. We mailed out postcards, do you have children under the age of 5? Yes or no. If it's no, go to the bottom. Forget it. It was just a little postcard. And what we discovered was that they were, and I remember announcing this in the Weston Middle School cafeteria, full. And I said, there are 808 children under the age of 5 in Weston. The state was saying there were 400 and something at the time. And so, anyway, I'm on this committee, and they said, well, gee, should we build? And I said, no, you should build the 8 rooms you're going to need at Hurlbut North House, added on to North House. I can't swear that you're going to need 8, certainly 6 in the next couple of years, whatever. And so what they said, okay, we'll build 4 and have a temporary, apparently they could put 4 more on it.
Exactly.
Yeah.
That's exactly right.
You mean my life is coming full circle?
It may. So this plan to move to 3 schools would move the senior center into what is now the middle school, the bus garage into the back of the middle school. The Board of Education and all of the people in the temporary portables into the middle school. And
sell tickets to the swimming pool.
well, the seniors would have direct access to the
Yeah.
swimming pool as well. And so they repopulate the middle school with other functions, which are necessary to put somewhere, especially those that are now in the portables, which are going to go out of commission at some point.
They should have 10 years
Right.
ago. They were used when we bought them.
They were? No, I didn't know that.
Yes.
So, in any case,
Hal got a deal. Hal
then
got
you
a
would
good
have
deal on it,
the senior center area of Hurlbut repurposed back to school. Additional 4 classrooms, as you've just described, built onto Hurlbut. And then some other additions that I'm not totally clear about right now. But this would allow for a triple win situation in that the portables would go away, the bus garage would go away, and the seniors would have a better place and a bigger place to have a center, a real center.
Would you please guarantee me that they'll take down that ridiculous, ugly, this way to the Weston school system, the cheapo typeface they have on that?
You mean the headstone?
The headstone, right?
Yeah. I would love the headstone. I don't even know how it got there.
Oh,
One day it appeared, and we had nothing to do with it. We should have, but we had nothing to do with it.
What type? Why didn't they pick a better typeface if they had to pick a commercial typeface?
Right.
Jeez.
No, it should be a very lively, beautiful type of sign that celebrates the entry to the school. This looks very cemetery-like to me.
Yes,
Yeah,
cheap cemetery.
right.
But in any event, the walkability thing, that most people, I bet you, in Weston think, oh, they're going to just do sidewalks. And, kind of, who needs sidewalks? Well, yeah, some things will be sidewalks, but other things will be just, as you say, wayfinding. They'll, see where people walk, and there could be areas and linkages and that kind of thing. It's not just, we're going to be a city and have a sidewalk and sewers and nothing like that, I think.
Well, we have a lot of different kind of
I
moving.
think the building committee should definitely have a subtext on this saying, and we are the sidewalk committee.
There's something in the town codes that doesn't allow the building committee to get involved with streets and sidewalks. And I don't know exactly why, but I've been told that because there is a plan by Malone and McBroom, our consultants, to widen the roadway at the intersection of School Road and 57,
Yes, I'm familiar with that.
53.
I was on Swerpa at the time.
Right.
Yes.
Now, personally, I think that's a bad idea. So what I propose to them is, in fact, that they take, and I've been looking at this for many years, actually, take School Road, instead of coming down at an angle to 57, you come straight onto 57. So it forms a true intersection. It turns out on the other side, if you do that, you take out the angular part of it, and you make it straight. That does a couple things. It provides for a true intersection with a road on the other side that's barely perceptible right now, which goes back to the rear of the commercial property. So if there's ever a building back there, you can actually put a road that goes directly to the I think 7 or 8 acres there that can be developed for commercial property. 2, it then creates a tremendous amount of land between the back of the bus garage and the relocated road. It triples the size of the land, of the site for the bus garage. So you have
Wait a minute. Which the existing bus garage
existing bus garage right
is
now.
going to disappear?
I'm not proposing that, and nor are they at this point. So in order to do something, repurpose that building temporarily before there's funding to build an art center or something in that location, okay, or more commercial space in that location. What we could do is we can straighten out School Road and create a lot of value between the back of the bus garage and School Road itself. For instance, if we're going to repurpose that building as, let's say, a small art gallery or a cafe or a combination thereof, which we can do kind of Chelsea style in New York, In fact, if you go down to the Post Road, there's that repurposed automobile dealership that's now a place that sells plants and has a coffee house.
By the way,
What is that called? Terra something or other?
whatever. But that bus garage, actually, if you come and look at it, and it won architectural awards when it was built.
Yeah, those were ill-considered awards, but nevertheless.
Nonetheless,
nonetheless, that bus garage should be repurposed very much like that plant store cafe. What they did to that older dealership, which was a horrible building, it's now beautiful. It has all kinds of plants on the outside. And it could be repurposed as a cafe, art gallery, music venue, outdoor seating, sculpture garden, whatever, for very little money without tearing it down right now. Ultimately, I think it should be, but that's another question. We need a lot of parking for that, and that parking could be placed behind the bus garage and in between the straightened out School Road with the
When you say
intersection of 57.
straightened out, School Road comes down now.
And it bends towards the south.
Yes.
It's on an angle. So just keep it up north as far as the property allows us to do that. So instead of coming down on
Where
an
does
angle,
that relate to the town hall annex?
the town.
We're not going that far in, right?
No, there's a bend that goes around the softball field.
Right.
We don't have to make that bend because town owns property to north of there.
Great. Okay.
We can go straight. So we double, triple the size of the bus garage site. Okay. Now, one of the plans that Malone showed us that I've also asked them to was an open space south of the garage. Now we have a couple of ball fields there, maybe are not necessary or can be repurposed as a town green.
The only time I ever caught a fly ball was on that field.
I spent
the North House,
lots of Sunday mornings playing softball on that field.
I came running in. I always played right field because no one hit there. But except I used to.
I played first
base.
base.
running. Of course, you're tall.
Yeah.
I came running in. I put out my thing, and it went in.
Well, we need a sculpture of what you look like right now with your hand out.
We'll have pictures.
In bronze,
yes,
with a plaque at the bottom is "I caught a fly ball here."
That
will be part of the sculpture garden.
I wanted to immediately catch the person off second base who was rounding third at that point, but everyone came running out to congratulate me. That's what happens when girls play ball.
Okay. I don't know. The girls play on that field, the field behind it right now. For some reason, that's a girls' field, and they're good. Their pitching is unbelievable. I couldn't hit that pitching. Right now I couldn't hit any pitching, but I used to. Nevertheless, those softball fields are lightly used, and we have, endless numbers of softball fields in town. So one of the proposals is to make that into a town green, open it up to the town center so it completes the circle, and then the road in the middle becomes a much slower roadway in terms of streetscapes, parking both sides, and that's where sidewalks become usable. Not sidewalks by themselves, poured nilly-willy without a master plan, but sidewalks that become a component of a streetscape plan, including streets, parking, lighting, wayfaring, signage, and all of that. And including crosswalks and different kinds of pavement, different color pavement, different scored pavement, to really make cars acknowledge that they're entering a place, a zone, versus, as I said before, driving through and not even seeing it.
Now we're talking School Road.
No, we're actually talking Route 57, 53 between Northfield and School Road.
Good luck. It's a state highway.
Same thing in Westport, state highways. There's parking all over the place. People kind of are somehow think that because it's a state road, you can't do anything with it. It's just not true. State road in Ridgefield. State roads can be adjudicated in many different kinds of ways. There are approvals and so on and so forth, but you go through the process.
It's very comforting to me to know that we have our local architect and urban design person working behind the scenes and helping these planners who are not necessarily visual types. You know, they're really good planners, but they may not have the skills to just make our plan perfect.
Well, Malone and McBroom is a very large firm with a big footprint. They do a lot of different things. I don't know if they specialize in anything specifically, but they're engineers, they're architects, they're planners, and so forth and so on. They are our planners at the moment, and I think we have to help them do the best job they can.
I can tell you from my own experience, just with the people who are working with us, they're really skilled, just as I was describing what a planner can do in terms of, oh, yeah, I'll find the data. They have one of those working on us. They have a person I know from way back, like 2006, something like that. And his firm, he's a planner, his firm got subsumed into Malone and McBroom, which was more of an engineering kind of a thing.
Exactly.
So they have planning, real planning in there.
Right. I think in a firm like that, where they have traffic engineers, for instance, sometimes the traffic engineers take the lead on things. In a small urban design firm, the traffic engineers would be called in to solve a problem that the urban designers have isolated. So I think one of the problems here is and I'll give you an example with New York City. So for years, New York City expanded their driving footprint. The DOTs Department of Transportations were only involved with getting cars as quickly to a place and most efficiently to that place. Okay. When New York City started to take a broader view, actually, their planning people went to, of all places, Copenhagen. They said, wow, you can be in a large metropolitan area with places for people to walk and bicycle. They actually hired a guy named Jan Gehl, who designed Copenhagen as it is now in the 1960s. Okay, they hired them, brought them into New York, and they started to close the streets down. They started to realize that when you make the streets smaller, the vehicles travel more effectively and more efficiently. At the same time, you have bike lanes, you have pedestrian plazas, you have larger sidewalks. You notice in Times Square, they've literally closed Times Square down compared to what it was before, which was a sea of asphalt. When you start making the asphalt wider, as Malone has suggested, you actually have less opportunities for bicyclists and pedestrians, and you have more opportunities for vehicles. Creates a problem rather than solves a problem. So I've spoken with them about that. Hopefully they won't do that, or at least it won't be done. I congratulate Chris Spalding on getting the funding from the state to do that. Hopefully that can be redirected into something more productive.
Well, anyway, we're all going to work together to make for a better Weston, and I am so grateful.
Thank you, Margaret.